Hello and welcome to the Third Rail. We have a new addition to the collection this week. I just received this T18 of the Württemberg State Railways and I thought we should have a first look at it together. First, let's have a quick model overview. It appeared in the 1989 catalogue on page 13 in the bottom half. It's a 3307 analog T18 of the Württemberg State Railway. There was also a digital version of the model, which was identical cosmetically, under model number 3607. The model measures 16.9 centimeters between buffers. It has a plastic body on a metal chassis. It has also burnished wheels. It's probably one of the first models to have that in the Märklin range. It's also equipped with an electronic reverser and short couplings are fitted at both ends. Electric lights are fitted on both sides and change with the direction of travel. So let's have a look at the prototype. The T18 was originally produced for the Royal Prussian State Railways at the beginning of the 20th century. At that time, Prussia was not only the largest kingdom in the German Empire, but it was also one of the world's largest railway operators. It operated on a heavily decentralized model, which meant that various regional directions ordered engines based on their local requirements. This also applied to the development of new classes. For this reason, in the area of Mainz, which is the Frankfurt-Wiesbaden region, class T10 was in operation to cover commuter services, and in the area of Berlin and various lines along the coast of the Baltic Sea, a class T12 was employed for the same services. These two classes were plagued with performance and reliability issues from the day they entered service. It was so bad that a replacement for these classes was immediately sought. The replacement class should have a similar performance as the recently introduced P8 engine, but should be able to run in both directions in order to reduce or eliminate the requirement for turntables and the associated inefficiencies in terms of time and staff requirements. The ability to run in both directions was a very innovative idea at the time. There was actually no engine capable of such feat. The development of the new class was given to Vulcan in the town of Stettin, which is located in the east of Prussia in today's Poland. And the first prototypes were delivered to the Prussian railways in 1912. The new engines performed very well. Nevertheless, a few technical changes were required in order to improve their traction and their ability to use certain lines. This work was done relatively quickly and the engine was available for order from 1914 onwards. The deployment of this new class took a while if you compare that with other types of engines, so that by 1918 just under 200 engines were in operation within Prussia and Alsace-Lorraine. The First World War, of course, played a role in the sluggishness of this deployment, but this engine was also very expensive for the time, and funding was therefore quite difficult for the various regional railway directions. But production picked up in 1919 as a lot of locomotives had to be produced to replenish gaps left by locomotives that had to be given away as part of the war reparations. And it's at that time that the prototypes corresponding to our model were delivered to the newly formed Württemberg State Railways. In total, a number of 20 units arrived in Württemberg in 1919. Our prototype number 1127 was officially accepted by the Württemberg State Railways in July 1919. The 20 Württemberg units remained in service and were transferred to what ultimately became the Deutsche Reichsbahn in 1925. They were given a new class number in the process, the class number 78. The class 78 remained in service all throughout the war and was ultimately transferred to the Deutsche Bundesbahn in 1949. There it carried on its duty in the area of commuter services right until the last unit was decommissioned at the end of 1974. This completes the 20,000 feet overview of the model. There's a few links in the description if you want to get a few more informations, and there's of course your favorite user forum. Now let's have a look at my 3307. And we'll start with the box. It arrived unscathed. It's showing a few battle marks here and there, but there's nothing much out of the ordinary. Just a few storage marks here and there. The box is from the 1980s, which is a plus. Yeah, nothing much to report. Oh, we've got the original price, 230 German marks in 1989. That wasn't cheap. That's PlayStation money considering inflation. Right, let's open the box and see what's in there. So we've got the original in tray. It's a bit yellowed, but that's pretty frequent actually. It's just starting to yellow, so it's not that bad. We've got the paperwork with a few marks. I quite like how previous owners just put their mark on this type of things. You can see what their thinking was and how well the locomotive was maintained or cared for, I guess. Right, well, it doesn't look too bad from here. I'm going to put the locomotive on its presentation rail and we're going to have a closer look. And here it is in all its glory. It doesn't look bad at all from here. It still looks in a very good condition. One thing before we start having a closer look is the livery applied to this model by Märklin. At best, it's an approximation on the effects of the reflection of the light on the paintworks chosen by the Württemberg Railways. At worst, it's a complete fantasy because there are reports on various forums and in various books that the colour chosen by the Württemberg Railways from just before the beginning of the First World War was simply black. So this livery might be a bit of a fantasy livery. I don't mind as far as I'm concerned. I'm not a prototypical elitist and I quite like it as it is now. I find it quite striking actually. But viewers should be aware that's not really a reflection of the reality in this case. So let's move a bit closer. We can see that the running numbers are still completely intact, that there are no defects on the paint. In passing, we can admire the wonderful riveting work Märklin put into this model as usual, and also all the lovely details on the boiler, which are either molded or applied separately. Nothing seems to be amiss here. We're going to move a bit closer and have a look at the wheels. We can see that the step ladders are still intact. The wheels and the valve work, the rods, etc. are all there. The paint is also intact on those. The fake brakes are also all intact, and the ladder to the driver's cab is also there. Buffers are there. Fantastic. Nothing to complain about so far. Let's move the point of observation from a bit further up now, so we can see that the attached safety valve and bell are there. The domes are in the right place and intact. Well, not that they were really going to have been moved, but they're there and not damaged, which is what matters. And if we move towards the front of the loco, we can see that plenty of small details have been applied. The lanterns are still here, the handlebars on top of the ladders are there and straight, which is good. You can take a second to admire all the fine detailing, especially on the footplate. Yes, nothing to complain about there either. Now let's see how things look on the other side. At first sight, there doesn't seem to be anything much to complain about on that side either. If we slowly move from the front to the back, we can have a look at the details on that side. We can see that the paint hasn't suffered any damage, and that I cannot detect any breach whatsoever. Here are a few details of the cab, and we can have a look at the wheels on that side, working our way back this time. And there again, no brakes, everything's where it should be. Yeah, nothing seems to be broken or misaligned. Very good. And let's have a look from a higher viewing angle. Yeah, this model looks very nicely done. The tender has a relatively realistic goal load. Well, not really. The running number is still there. The little lights are still there as well. And we can have a look at the boiler from above. No comment there, we've seen it from various sites before. And we can move on to the undercarriage. So, coupling there, the wheels, I've seen some track by the looks of it. That's fine by me, and that's also what the seller said in the description. The pickup shoe is in good order. You can see the effect of the burnishing on the wheels. Yeah, nothing out of place, typical chassis from that era. No problem at all. And we can see that the other coupling is also intact. Fantastic. Right, as I'm close to the layout, I'm going to put the locomotive on the track and check that it's functional. And as we can see, it goes forwards, backwards, the lights are working, it's very noisy, it's hesitant, it's not driving well, but that's just a maintenance issue. Something more to do. Let's have a look at cars now. And for this period, I'm not sure. It was very short in the history of the locomotive. Maybe we could think about reusing some mainline carriages, as you can see on screen, which are already presented for the 3511. Or maybe some Prussian compartment cars. Or maybe even some 4040 little cars, tin plate cars. There wasn't much in the catalogue in the 1980s that could have fit this logo. Maybe other manufacturers at the time. Whatever I chose to do, I'm sure that the star of the show will be the locomotive when I get to include it in a future running session. But for now, I'd like to thank you very much for watching. It's very much appreciated. I'd also like to thank the existing and recent subscribers to the channel. I'm still surprised that people are interested in my production, so much so that they subscribe to the channel and sometimes give me a like. It's very rewarding and keeps me going. Thanks very much again. Bye for now.